She walked into a luxury store to buy a blazer, and walked out accused, humiliated, and searched like a suspect. Why? Because she was black. But what the store didn't know, was that she was also a law student. And she wasn't about to stay silent. This is the story of Lena Jordan. And what happened next didn't just go viral, it changed everything. Stick around till the end, because justice doesn't come quietly. The boutique gleamed like a temple to luxury, glass cases glinting under soft spotlights, mannequins draped in silk and suede, and the faint scent of jasmine diffused through the air. Everything inside the Marston and Bell flagship store on Madison Avenue whispered exclusivity. Wealth. Power. Lena Jordan stepped through its doors as the winter wind brushed against her back. She wore a wool peacoat and neatly pressed slacks, her braids pulled into a tidy bun. Her boots, scuffed but clean, clicked softly on the marble floor. She paused briefly inside, soaking in the warmth, eyes scanning the sea of fashion curated on pedestals. She had come on a whim, between her torts lecture and the internship interview that loomed that afternoon. The blazer she wore felt stiff, not quite her. She wanted to see something else. Something bold, even if it was just for 5 minutes. A sales associate, blonde and sleek in heels too high for comfort, spotted her from across the store. Her name tag read Celeste. She didn't smile. Just narrowed her eyes, like a lens adjusting focus. Lena caught the look, the quick once-over, the pause at her boots. She knew that look. It wasn't curiosity. It was suspicion wrapped in polite disinterest. Lena moved deliberately, with the calm of someone used to being watched, calculated. She made a slow orbit around a circular rack of silk blouses, pausing to touch the sleeve of a crimson wrap top. The fabric was delicate, expensive. She admired it, imagining herself walking into the law firm downtown wearing it, head high, eyes forward. She didn't notice Celeste had moved closer. She only realized when the woman's perfume, something cold and floral, drifted beside her. "Can I help you with something?" Celeste asked, her voice honeyed but taut. Lena turned, polite smile in place. "Just browsing, thanks." A nod. A step back. Not retreating, just observing. Lena made her way toward a rack near the dressing rooms. A soft black dress caught her eye, simple lines, strong shoulders. She brushed it lightly with her fingers. And then it happened. A muffled beep. A rustle. A third sales associate, a young white man with a clipped beard and eager posture, appeared from the side, holding a handheld security scanner. His eyes flicked to Lena. Then to Celeste. A wordless exchange passed between them. Lena felt her stomach tighten, but she didn't move. "Excuse me," the man said, stepping forward. "We're going to need to check your bag." Lena blinked. "I'm sorry." "There's been a security alert," Celeste chimed in, her voice now firm, tinged with performance. "Something from the dressing room went missing. We just need to check, standard protocol." Lena's breath slowed. The store hadn't been crowded. She hadn't even entered a dressing room. Her coat was buttoned. Her hands were empty. "No one else is being checked," she said quietly. Celeste straightened. "Ma'am, this isn't personal." But of course it was. Customers nearby stopped pretending not to hear. A woman in a Burberry scarf tilted her head. An older man with horn-rimmed glasses froze mid-step, watching with narrowed eyes. No one said a word. Lena slowly removed her coat, folded it over her arm, and held up her hands, palms out. "Feel free to check. But I'd like to know, did the alert say my name? My face? My coat?" The security man faltered. "I didn't think so." Lena's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It was steel wrapped in velvet. Celeste hesitated, then looked toward the manager's desk in the corner. A silent signal passed. And Lena knew, this had already escalated. Not because of a missing item. Not because of evidence. But because a young black woman had stepped inside their sanctuary and didn't look afraid to stay. The silence that followed Lena's challenge was electric, vibrating just beneath the soft jazz playing over the speakers and the click of designer heels on polished marble. Celeste stiffened, the slight twitch at the corner of her mouth betraying her surprise. She hadn't expected pushback, not from someone like Lena. Lena still stood near the rack of dresses, her coat folded neatly over her arm. Her body was calm, composed, but inside, the pressure was building. Every gaze felt like a verdict. Every second of silence felt like a sentence. The security associate, his name tag read Ben, shifted awkwardly. He was young, maybe late 20s, but something about his stance suggested he believed in the authority stitched into his navy vest. Still, Lena's words had caught him off guard. "No offense," he said, his voice breaking the quiet. We got an alert from the censor. It's store policy to verify." Lena didn't move. "And you're verifying with me?" "Only me. In a store full of people." Ben glanced toward Celeste for backup. Celeste folded her arms across her chest, lips pressed thin. "We have reason to believe the missing item may have passed through this section," she said coldly. "And you were the only one nearby." Lena's gaze didn't waver. "Say what you mean." "I was the only black woman nearby." A gasp, a real one, broke from someone behind them. A middle-aged woman in a cream wool coat turned quickly away, pretending to study a necklace display. Celeste flushed, but her expression hardened. "I don't appreciate the insinuation." "And I don't appreciate the assumption," Lena shot back. "You're accusing me without evidence, without cause, and you're trying to make me feel small in a place that sells clothes I could buy 10 times over." Ben stepped in again, more nervous now. "Ma'am, please. If you could just let us take a look inside your bag, we can settle this quietly." Lena stared at him, the fire in her chest held tightly behind her ribs. She slowly set her bag on the display table. Her voice was quieter now, colder. "Go ahead. But you open it." Ben hesitated. I think it'd be better if you. You want to search me? Then you search me. I want everyone here to see exactly how far you're willing to go based on a hunch and the color of my skin." It was then that a third figure emerged, a man in a suit, sharp-lined and silver-haired, with the confident air of someone used to being obeyed. His name tag bore a single word, manager. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice smooth but not warm. Celeste stepped forward quickly. She matched the profile. "We think she might have taken." "I didn't take anything," Lena interrupted. "I haven't touched anything except what's on the rack. I haven't entered the dressing room. I haven't hidden anything. All I did was walk into this store with my head up." The manager turned to her, gaze appraising. "Miss, if this is just a misunderstanding, I'm sure we can sort it out without drama." "Drama?" Lena repeated, her voice trembling now, not from fear, but from fury barely contained. "You're the ones creating a scene. You've surrounded me, accused me, searched me, and now I'm the problem because I won't just take it quietly." A man by the watches mumbled, "Probably just a scam." Another, older, whispered something about entitlement. The words weren't loud, but they were heavy. Loaded. Familiar. Lena's heart beat in her throat. The shame threatened to rise, to drown her. But she wouldn't let it. "Not here. Not in front of them. You're all so sure I don't belong here," she said, voice low. "Because of how I look. Because I don't wear my wealth on my wrist or around my neck." Ben, looking deeply uncomfortable now, opened her bag, slowly, carefully, his gloved hands revealing nothing but a laptop, a leather folio, and a granola bar. "Nothing." He looked at Celeste. "It's clean." "Of course it is," Lena thought. But that didn't stop the sting. Because the damage was already done. Celeste gave a tight nod, brushing her hands together as if to clear them of dust. Well, thank you for your cooperation. But Lena didn't move. She just stood there, eyes wide, fists clenched, shame burning beneath her skin like acid. And the worst part? They expected her to thank them. To smile. To leave. But she didn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't over. The silence after Ben's awkward declaration, "It's clean," rippled through the boutique like a dropped glass shattering on tile. Celeste blinked. For the first time, she looked uncertain, caught between policy and perception, between her instincts and the glaring reality she could no longer ignore. Lena had done nothing wrong. But her voice stayed clipped. Well, sometimes the sensors misfire, she muttered, straightening a blouse sleeve on the rack beside her. Technology isn't perfect. Lena stared at her. Neither is bias. And yours just tried to make me a criminal. Celeste turned sharply. Excuse me. You heard me, Lena said, stepping forward now, not in aggression, but with the unshakable poise of someone reclaiming space. You saw me, a black woman alone, and decided that was suspicious enough to warrant public humiliation. You didn't ask. You accused. You surrounded me. And now, what, you're blaming the scanner. The manager, Mr. Preston, cleared his throat. Let's all take a breath. There's no need to escalate. You escalated the moment you let them turn this store into a courtroom, Lena snapped. No jury. No facts. Just skin tone. A small group of shoppers had now gathered, drawn by the rising voices. Some watched with discomfort. Others with curiosity. One or two with empathy. But most stayed quiet. Neutrality disguised as politeness. A tall woman in a camel coat whispered to her companion, "This is why these people always claim discrimination. Always playing the race card." Lena turned sharply. Say it louder. I want everyone to hear what you just said. The woman blinked, caught off guard. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Lena said. Her voice was even, but her eyes burned. You meant every word. You think my experience is a card to be played. A game. Something made up for convenience. You think standing here, in front of strangers, being accused of theft, is something I choose. You think I want to make this about race? This is about race. It always has been. The woman looked away. Her cheeks flushed crimson. She didn't apologize. A young man near the scarves stepped forward cautiously. Asian American, early 20s. I saw everything, he said quietly, to Mr. Preston. She wasn't doing anything. She was just shopping. You didn't stop anyone else. You went straight to her. Mr. Preston shifted. We acted based on a sensor notification. No, the man said. You acted based on fear. Fear of who you think black women are. Ben, the security associate, looked like he wanted to disappear. I didn't mean anything by it, he muttered. Lena turned to him, softer now. You don't have to mean it for it to matter. That's how racism works, it hides in, just doing my job and, just following protocol. But the impact? That's real. That stays. A pause. Then Celeste spoke again, voice low. Look, maybe we made a mistake. But you don't have to make this a scene. Lena's laugh came bitter and sharp. You made the scene. You dragged it across the floor of this boutique, wrapped it around my dignity, and hung it for display. Now that people are watching, I'm the one making it worse. She reached into her folio, pulled out a folded document, and held it up. You know what this is? She asked. No one answered. This is my acceptance letter to the New York University School of Law. Full scholarship. I'm graduating top of my pre-law program this spring. I came here looking for a blazer to wear to my internship interview at a civil rights nonprofit. The room went quiet. No one moved. I don't need to steal your silk, Lena said, voice steady. I came here to buy it. To pay you. But now, I think I'll take my business, and my story, somewhere else. And then she turned, not to leave, but to reach into her bag again. She pulled out her phone, opened the camera, and began recording. My name is Lena Jordan, she said, her voice clear, eyes on the lens. Today, I was accused of theft at Marston and Bell on Madison Avenue. I was searched publicly. No stolen items were found. No apologies were offered. This is the face of what discrimination looks like in luxury retail. Mr. Preston stepped forward. Miss, please. She turned the camera toward him. Would you like to issue a statement? I'm sure the internet would love to hear your side. He froze. I'll wait. The silence was heavier than ever now. Even the music seemed to have gone still. A teenage girl near the entrance whispered, "Damn." Her mother gently shushed her, but didn't take her eyes off Lena. Finally, Mr. Preston cleared his throat. We regret the misunderstanding. No, Lena replied, lowering the phone. You regret being caught. Then, without another word, she slipped her coat over her shoulders, took one last look around the boutique, and walked out, back straight, chin high. Behind her, silence lingered. But outside, the wind greeted her like an old friend. And Lena, though bruised, walked on, into the next chapter, knowing the world would remember her name. The video hit 12,000 views before Lena reached her internship interview. By nightfall, it had crossed 1 million. Posted with the caption, Shopping While Black, Marston and Bell, Madison Avenue #racial profiling, the clip spread like a spark on dry tinder. It was short, just under 2 minutes, but it didn't need to be long. The footage captured Lena's voice, firm and composed. It showed the manager fumbling. Celeste in the background, arms crossed defensively. And it showed Lena's name, spoken clearly to the camera like a drumbeat against silence. Within hours, Twitter threads unraveled every piece of the interaction. TikTok stitched together racial statistics on retail discrimination. Instagram flooded with screenshots and hashtags. Hashtag Stand With Lena. Hashtag Luxury While Black. Hashtag Marston and Bailout. By morning, Lena's inbox was full. Journalists. Activists. Even students from high school she'd never heard of writing to say, "Thank you. You said what we never could." But none of that compared to the email waiting at the top of her list, sent at 2:08 a.m. Subject, from the office of CEO Wallace Trent. Ms. Jordan. We at Marston and Bell have been made aware of the incident at our Madison Avenue location. On behalf of the company, I want to offer my sincerest apologies for the distress caused by our staff's actions. We take this matter seriously and would like to schedule a private conversation at your earliest convenience. Wallace Trent. CEO, Marston and Bell. The words landed hollow in Lena's chest. Sincere apologies. After 1 million views and rising stockholder tension. It was never about sincerity. It was about damage control. By noon, The View had played the video. CNN had requested an interview. And Lena's university issued a public statement of support. We stand with Ms. Jordan and all students who face systemic bias beyond the classroom. But amidst the swelling tide of validation, another storm was brewing beneath it. A different email arrived. From a woman named Janice. No last name. Just, I used to work there. I saw it too. Lena opened it slowly. I watched the video. I'm sorry this happened to you. I worked at that Marston location 2 years ago. I quit after 3 months. They had a code, 33-4, watch the black customer. They'd radio it when someone came in who looked suspicious. Always people of color. Always. I didn't have the courage to say something. I do now. Let me know if you need me to go public. I'll back you up. Janice. Lena's hand tightened on the mouse. 33. It wasn't just Celeste's racism. It wasn't just one overzealous manager. It was a system. A practiced choreography of suspicion. An embedded reflex masquerading as policy. Lena had stepped into it unknowingly, and now she was unraveling the threads with every breath. She called Kayla that afternoon, her friend and attorney. They want a private conversation, Lena said. But I don't want private. I want accountability. Kayla's voice was sharp. Then we don't take the meeting. We go public. You tell your story. I draft a civil suit. If you're willing to go through with it, this can't just be a moment. It has to be a movement. Lena didn't hesitate. Let's move. That evening, Lena appeared on Evening Report, seated across from a seasoned anchor who asked the right questions without sensationalizing her pain. What did it feel like? The anchor asked. In that moment, Lena paused. The studio lights were warm, but her voice was cool. It felt like being on trial for existing, she said. Like my skin carried a price tag I never agreed to. And when they found nothing in my bag, they still looked at me like I owed them an explanation for walking in. The clip was shared 3.4 million times. The next morning, Marston and Bell issued a public apology. It hit the newswires just before dawn. We acknowledge the pain caused by the actions of our staff. An internal review has been launched. The employees involved have been placed on leave pending investigation. We are committed to retraining, to listening, and to change. But Lena didn't buy it. She read the statement aloud at a press conference that Kayla arranged. Retraining? Lena said, holding up the email from Janice. You don't need training to know that following a customer through a store is wrong. You don't need diversity workshops to understand that humiliation isn't a policy issue, it's a human one. You need accountability. And you need to know the people watching aren't silent anymore. The cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled. And Lena, who'd once walked into a boutique for a blazer, now stood on the steps of justice wearing armor made of truth. The courtroom wasn't as grand as people imagined it would be. No cathedral ceilings. No gilded fixtures. Just gray walls, wooden benches, and fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out. But that morning, it might as well have been the center of the world. Lena sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded neatly in front of her, a quiet storm behind her eyes. On the table lay a leather-bound notepad, Kayla's phone on silent, and a small silver pin of a scale, a gift from Lena's mother the day she got her acceptance letter to NYU Law. Across the aisle sat Marston and Bell's legal team. 3 attorneys, polished and rigid, their expressions measured but strained. Behind them sat company executives in expensive suits, their confidence thinning like smoke under pressure. The case had grown beyond Lena now. It wasn't just about her bag being searched, or Celeste's narrowed eyes. It was about years. Decades. Patterns and practices. People who had been watched, followed, questioned, ejected, and silenced. Lena had become their voice, not because she asked to be, but because the world refused to stop echoing what she said. Judge Farnsworth entered the courtroom, robe flowing behind him. A white man in his early 60s, stern-faced but fair by reputation. He adjusted his glasses and offered a nod. Let's proceed. Kayla stood, heels silent on the floor. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Your Honor, today we're not just addressing an incident, we are exposing an institution. My client, Ms. Lena Jordan, entered Marston and Bell on a quiet weekday afternoon and left with her dignity publicly challenged, her character questioned, and her rights trampled. She paused, letting her words settle. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was the result of internal culture, embedded bias, and a corporate structure that sees customers through a lens of racial assumption. We will present not only Ms. Jordan's experience, but testimony from former employees, documents showing coded language in training manuals, and witness accounts that make one thing clear: this company profiled black customers with deliberate consistency. The judge nodded. The opposing attorney rose, adjusted his tie. Your Honor, while we understand the emotional weight of this matter, we respectfully maintain that this was an unfortunate misunderstanding, not a corporate directive. The employee involved has since been dismissed. We have offered public apologies and made every effort to make amends. Lena felt Kayla straighten beside her. Effort doesn't erase harm, she murmured, just loud enough. The trial unfolded over 3 days. Former employee Janice testified first. Nervous but resolute, she described the Code 33, how managers would whisper it over radios the moment a black customer walked in. We were told to follow them discreetly, she said, voice shaking. They said it was about protecting merchandise. But it was always about skin color. Another ex-employee came forward, Andre, a black man who had once been a junior manager. I brought it up in a meeting, he said. Told them it didn't feel right. They told me not to make it racial. Just keep eyes open. Be professional. He looked directly at Lena when he said, I'm sorry I didn't speak out sooner. Lena nodded. Her eyes were wet, but her spine stayed straight. The video played next. The courtroom watched the moment Lena's voice cut through the boutique silence. Saw the way she held the phone. Heard her say, this is the face of what discrimination looks like in luxury retail. No one blinked when Celeste, who had been subpoenaed, declined to testify. The defense called their own witnesses. A compliance officer with spreadsheets. A regional manager with polished apologies. They all said the same thing, we didn't know. But Judge Farnsworth listened carefully, and Lena could see it in the way his pen moved, slower during their testimony, more exacting when Kayla spoke. On the final day, Kayla asked Lena to testify. She took the stand with calm dignity. Wore the same blazer she bought the day after the incident. A quiet reminder that she hadn't been broken. Tell us what happened that day, Kayla said. Lena took a breath. Her voice didn't waver. I walked into shop for an interview. I was followed, interrogated, and searched. Not because I did something wrong, but because someone looked at me and saw a threat. I was taught my whole life to be composed, polite, excellent. But that day, I realized excellence doesn't shield you from prejudice. Sometimes, it makes you a target. She looked at the jury. I didn't ask to be a symbol. I just wanted to buy a blouse. There were no dry eyes in the courtroom. After closing statements, the jury deliberated for 2 hours. They returned a unanimous verdict. Marston and Bell was found liable for racial discrimination, unlawful profiling, and negligent internal practices. Damages awarded, $875,000. Mandatory internal audit ordered. Staff retraining under federal oversight. A public apology mandated. The courtroom erupted not in cheers, but in a quiet sense of justice long delayed. Outside, the steps were lined with cameras. Lena stood before them, Kayla at her side, and delivered a statement prepared not in advance, but in her heart. This wasn't just about me. This was about every person who has ever been watched, questioned, or accused just for existing. We are not threats. We are not suspects. We are customers. We are citizens. We are human. She paused. This was never about a blouse. It was about dignity. And no one gets to take that from us. Over the months that followed, Lena received thousands of messages. From teachers. From veterans. From parents. From other law students who said, "You made me feel seen." Marston and Bell rebranded. New leadership. Training. Policies. But the name still carried a scar, a reminder etched into the cultural memory. Lena finished law school a year later. Graduated with honors. Went on to become a civil rights attorney. Took cases from cities large and small. Every time she entered a courtroom, she wore that same silver scale pin. And every time she stood to speak, the world listened. Because they remembered her name. Because Lena Jordan wasn't just a moment. She was a movement. Lena's story wasn't just about one store. It was about every time someone's been judged before they've even spoken. About what it costs to stand your ground. Have you ever been followed, profiled, or underestimated just for who you are? Tell your story in the comments, because silence protects no one, but truth connects us all. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit like, share it, and let them know we're watching. Always.